Well, welcome to Reviva Pharma's a channel addressing significant unmet medical needs in the central nervous system, cardiovascular, metabolic, and inflammatory diseases, trading on the NASDAQ under RVPH. We are privileged to be joined by Lux, the CEO, to kind of take us through and give us a high-level overview of the company. But first and foremost, welcome, sir.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to get you on. You guys are really looking at a lead candidate focused on schizophrenia. Maybe for newer audience, you want a broad view of kind of the schizophrenia state of the market and exactly what you guys are doing there at Reviva?
Yeah, schizophrenia is a very serious mental illness. It affects over 24 million people globally. In US, in North America, over 4 million. In Europe, around 7 million people suffer from schizophrenia. You can think of magnitude of, the size of the market for schizophrenia. Currently, it is close to $10 billion schizophrenia alone. It is expected to grow around 12 billion in the next 2 years. So it's often schizophrenia associated with multiple other conditions, metabolic disease, and then associated psychiatric conditions. Broadly, the pharmacological treatment for schizophrenia, we call them antipsychotics. So some few antipsychotics with a broader efficacy also used beyond schizophrenia as they are closely related. Now, having said that, schizophrenia is a serious mental illness. It differentiates to, at a great degree compared to other diseases such as cancer or cardiovascular disease, because schizophrenia, one thing is in most patients, it's a lifelong disease. And then another thing it differentiates, it is the onset of disease in most patients. It's a teenage level. Most of them are in the high school kids when they first get schizophrenia. So any medication for effective medication for treating schizophrenia requires not only efficacy, but tolerability, safety, avoid drug-induced side effects. So these are the criteria or unmet need one has to be aware of in developing new treatment for schizophrenia. So we believe we have addressed most of these criteria, unmet criteria with our drug.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the insight on that. And I wouldn't mind just talking about that lead candidate there, Brilaroxazine, if I'm saying that correctly. Maybe break it down, the mechanism of action behind it and the market opportunity that it's presenting.
Sure. Brilaroxazine is our lead drug candidate discovered in-house. We have granted compositions of matter patent in US, Europe, Japan, and additional 15 countries. So schizophrenia is primarily caused by dysfunctional serotonin dopamine signaling pathways. So dysfunctioning of these two major neurochemicals will have cascade effects with the dysfunctional other neurochemicals as well. Our drug directly targets these signaling pathways, serotonin dopamine signaling pathways. Most importantly, besides this serotonin dopamine, what we are learning in the last decade or so, every single schizophrenia patients will have some degree to great degree of dysfunctional inflammatory signaling. That means we call them as pro-inflammatory cytokines. They are a mediator or the product of inflammation. Our drug in multiple trials in the non-clinical studies and then clinical studies with over 800 patients, multiple biomarkers leading to reduction in inflammatory conditions in this patient population, we've seen statistically significant outcome besides strong efficacy for schizophrenia multiple symptom domains. When I say multiple symptom domains, schizophrenia is not a single disease. Rather, it is a mix of at least 4 major symptom domains. positive symptom where patients will have audio and visual hallucination, negative symptom and depression, cognitive dysfunction. These are the major symptoms. But the biggest unmet need in the treatment, despite having 14 drugs got approved in the last 40 years, the ability to effectively treat negative symptom and the sustainable efficacy, because it's a lifelong treatment in most patients. So sustainable efficacy is challenging. That's why patients discontinue medication very quickly. Historical data, if you look at in 4 to 6 weeks of treatment, they are acute patients, often hospitalized. The discontinuation rate is around in the randomized trial, around 30 to 42%. In the long run, treatment we call clinically stable patients, but still require medication for lifelong or maybe several years. The discontinuation rate within a year or so, it's around up to 70%. So our drug in the clinical trial showed really robust efficacy and then good treatment adherence. Our discontinuation rate in the double-blind trial, hospitalized patients, it's hardly 16%. It is less than placebo. In the over 1 year treatment, medication taken at home, discontinuation rate is 35%. That is compared to historical data, 50% less. Historical data in the 1 year treatment, around 60 to 74% discontinuation. That is for in a layman term, a common man who is not very familiar with this medical terminology would like to assess how good is this brilaroxazine. Possibly one can consider treatment discontinuation as a yardstick to measure compared to other drugs in the market. How good is that? Unless a drug has better efficacy and better safety profile, patients will not stick to the medication. That's what our drug brings into the most differentiating factor.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this is truly incredible. And you kind of spoke to a few points on this already, but do you want to talk about perhaps kind of the differentiation amongst other drugs that are out there, especially with some of the clinical data you're seeing?
Yeah, the other drugs, there are 14 drugs got approved to date in the last 40 years. We call them as second generation antipsychotics. They are widely used. So out of 14, if you look at from the market perspective, that is to a great extent reflective of differentiation as well. So out of 14 drugs, around 6 to 7 drugs are blockbuster drugs. They capture 90% or 90 plus percent of almost close to $12 billion schizophrenia market, and then $40 billion of a antipsychotic market. So when I say $40 billion market beyond schizophrenia, these drugs have been used to treat various other conditions. Now, having said that, one thing is unique in this market size profile. Only those drugs showed efficacy, decent efficacy for negative symptom in the randomized trial, showed good market capturing ability over $1 billion sales. But the remaining 7 to 8 drugs had mixed effect on the negative symptom, could not make it even a $500 million mark. Now, having said that one, as in a very very simple term, if you consider this market size of these 6 to 7 drugs over $1 billion sales, our drug has really robust efficacy for negative symptom in 2 randomized trials over 650 patients, and in 400 patients over 1 year treatment showed sustained durable efficacy for negative symptom that is further supported by biomarkers, speech biomarker, blood biomarkers. So this differentiation is really significant, remarkable to our knowledge. We believe this would be, when it comes to market, this is the major differentiating factor. And then another thing, what we noticed with the biomarker supported, our drug has shown in 2 trials in 400 plus patients, and then one out of that one trial over 1 year treatment, statistically significant decrease in multiple inflammatory markers. The inflammatory markers, why it is important. So around 30% patients, they partially respond or do not respond to currently available treatment. What we are learning from that data is that a drug, if treats neuroinflammation in this patient population, possibly those non-responders or partially responders of 30% patients can respond to the treatment. To my knowledge, ours is the only drug showed statistically significant outcome in the large trial on multiple pro-inflammatory biomarkers significantly reduced. Possibly that translated very well in addressing the negative symptom. That's the most difficult chronic condition, as well as a remaining symptom domains. And then also addressing neuroinflammation can significantly mitigate potential motor side effect. That's one of the major problem with the currently available treatment. Also metabolic side effects as well. So minimal or a significantly reduced metabolic side effect. And then we don't have a really hardly any motor side effect in the phase 3 trial. Possibly that is contributed by a good anti-inflammatory effect as well. So these are all mechanism driven that fundamentally the science driven differentiation. That's what we have seen clinically well translated. So we believe when it comes to market, these are the factors, clinically proven factors, can further help in capturing the market size. Ultimate goal is to provide better, effective, sustainable, durable treatment to patients. I believe our drug will meet that unmet need, address that unmet need.
Speaking to kind of coming to market, just to finish up, I mean, from a milestone standpoint and inflection standpoint, what should investors be paying attention to here, moving forward and getting this to market?
Sure. We in the last earning release in June, we mentioned that we will be reaching out to US FDA for getting the agency guidance for submitting NDA application. We believe we met the 2 randomized trial and then 1 long-term safety criteria. This is very critical for submitting new drug application. So we expect to have FDA meeting takes place in December, and then have outcome from the agency in December. So if the agency agrees to accept this NDA package for review, we would go ahead and then submit the NDA package in early Q2. That would take a standard review time of around 10 months. We hope the drug should be approved in sometime in March timeframe if everything goes well. That's our expected timeline. So we completed all the requirement to our knowledge, like long-term toxicology study, drug product manufacturing, registration batch, everything completed. So we would wait for agency feedback. And then most importantly, we hope agency may favorably consider the differentiation of our product further supported by biomarkers. Biomarkers are independent outcome than clinician assessment. So you may have heard with other companies, competing companies, or in the field in the past, companies were talking about in the psychiatric trial. Often in the past, we have seen clinician assessed data subjective outcome because the measures are often scale based. There are some component of subjective assessment. However, biomarkers are independent of that one. In our case, biomarker data very much aligned with the clinician assessed data. That further kind of give confidence that data generated in multiple trial independently confirmed by these biomarkers. So hopefully, we are very optimistic the positive outcome of regulatory discussion with the agency in December around that time frame. We believe that's the major value inflection point. And we are presenting the data in the upcoming neuro CNS summit, as well as a Society of Neuroscience in November. So we are also aggressively planning to publish the data. So one can expect in the next 6 months to 9 months, multiple publications coming out of the clinical data generated to date, and then various other scientific conferences presenting the data. So investors or shareholders can keep track of all these things, positive development in the coming months.
On that note, we'll pass it off to the viewers as always. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section, but consider subscribing for News Catalyst as it comes down the wire. Of course, we'll bring it to you here, and we'll leave all the links down in the description there as well. But on that, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.
Thank you.